Got it. Yes, everybody, we are here. Welcome to another
Hello.
in the ever ongoing series of Sunday Live Chat. And this is number 2,444,000. And today, my very special guest and very good friend joining us all the way from the northern UK. What is it, Red Car, Mark? Mr. Mark
Red,
Spybey,
yeah, red car, yeah.
the legendarios, Mr. Mark Spybey. Probably one of might call us one of our golden guests because Mark has been a regular co-host and visitor here on Sunday Live Chat for eons, and it's nice to have you back. It's been a while since
Thank,
we talked again.
yeah. No, it's great. I'm glad to be back. I should get a little golden ticket, shouldn't I?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think everyone needs to pretty much, um, go back and check out all of the fun chats that Mark and I have done. Um, and but first, we can't skip ahead. Like, come on, it's a monumental day. It's because it's the 23rd, and I don't know about you, but July 23rd, I thought like, oh, for me, a 23rd is always a bit suspicious. The number 23 in general, and Dwayne passed away on the 23rd of August, and
Yeah.
then 12 years ago today, oh, my lovely boy Zukin passed away.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought like, oh my God, he cemented another 23. And it's been a while, like since, Zukin was the pre-fisherman
Yeah.
and very,
Yeah.
and Simon Paul has, immortalized him. And then after fisherman came, after Zukin, which means to searching in German, by the way, came the lovely fisherman. And I can't believe that they're both gone already. The sad thing about this breed is that these two consistently live to be the exact same age, 11 and a half years old.
All right. Yeah. The same as my boo who died last year. Yeah. Same age.
How old? 11 and a half?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I think he was 11. Yeah. Yeah.
So what is it about possibly the lineage of a Siamese that
I
makes it
don't know
live
because
a less amount of time?
I think 11 is something like an average age for them, but
Yeah.
um, they can live longer than that. But yeah, I mean, oh, what a heartbreak, isn't it? Losing them, absolute
Well, I mean,
heartbreak.
at the time that you're going through it, it's absolutely the worst pain that you could ever imagine. I was just talking to Rihanna about it. It's like, well, we get the joy of their life, and that's the price we have to pay. Is we have to escort them out, and it will kill your soul. But um, now you've got a beautiful little Gloria,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
love to
Just
see
left.
all of your documentation you're doing of Gloria.
Yeah,
What type of
yeah.
cat is
She's
Gloria? Gloria looks like to be what, another Oriental short hair?
yeah, she's an Oriental Shorthair. Yeah,
Look at how
yeah.
pretty she is. Gloria in the garden. Look at Mark. I must say you have some really good gardening skills.
Well, yeah. It was nothing
What
when we
is
first moved
what
in.
is that? I've never seen a
That's
plant like that.
It's called a sea holly.
A
It's kind of a
seagull.
thistle. And when they're right now, they're bright blue.
Does it
It's
sting
very
you?
easy to grow. No, bees absolutely love it. Bees are all over it at the moment. No, then it's not stinging. I mean, the thistles are very sharp, you know.
I've never seen one in California, so I gather it doesn't like to grow in the warm
Probably
climate.
no,
Probably not.
no.
It's a UK thing.
It is. It's a thistle. Oh, there she is. Yeah, it's a thistle. A thistle thing. It's a thistle thing.
It's a thistle thing. But look at that. That's the
Yeah.
classic right there. I think I've got a picture of fisherman where a fisherman seeing himself in the camera lens, and you can see that he's acknowledging, "Oh my God, that's me."
I know. I know. They've
But I
just
love
got
Lee's Shrek
beautiful faces.
out
Yeah,
in the
she is.
garden.
She took to it straight away. I mean, we just put it on the first time, and she was like, "Oh, great, thanks. It's great."
It's marvelous to just sit out in your yard with your cat and just like
Yeah,
live
yeah,
vicariously through their experiences. Mark and I have always had a close connection with things like cats and music and stuff like that. I mean, we've shared a lot, including a lot of music and some fun times, that's for sure.
Yeah. A lot of
Um,
cats, a lot of music, a lot of fun.
Hell yeah. Most people will know Mark and I, of course, through our project Dead Voices on, or it started with Dead Voices on Air,
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
and I integrated into a couple tracks on Hofted Mall, and then we became idealistic at that point and started to conceive, while Dwayne was still alive, the concept of download being like experimental music. But it graduated a little bit more out of experimental into heavy beats and all sorts of things. And every single July, I can't help but think about being in the studio in Subcon, where I spent a month in there going over master jam tapes that we had done and basically compiling what would become Furnace.
Yeah.
Dwayne had to go back to Edmonton, so I was worried about his return. And of course, you had your full-time employment as like a counselor and a occupational therapist.
Yep.
So it was a wondrous time that I actually was freaking out like fuck, but I could actually talk with you, the perfect guy, to speak
Yeah. Thanks.
while all this trauma was going on. It's just like basically put all of your feelings and everything into like the music that we were making. And it's really hard to believe that that's like nearly 30 years ago.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. 30 years. Yeah. Yeah.
We've shared a lot of musical adventures and experiences, and we've lost half of our band.
I know. I know. And I feel it every day.
Yeah.
Um,
I really I can't believe that Phil Western, we're coming up on like 5 years of Phil
I
Western.
know. I know.
It seems almost uncanny. I can almost hear Phil
Yeah.
saying 5 years blows.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's me in Subcon.
yeah, the old school Subcon setup there. The pictures by Clancy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Clancy. Yeah. Still in touch with Clancy. He lives on one of the islands. So maybe on the Sunshine Coast. I think Sunshine Coast. Yeah.
That's how much my cat liked synthesizers.
Yeah.
You still have this drumstick.
I do. Yeah. Do you want to see it?
Where the hell is it? So I gave Mark this drumstick after acquiring it, I believe, on the Last Rites, maybe on the Last Rites tour. There it is. And I thought, like, wow, this thing is amazing. And it actually is quite fun to play, and it's still
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
still works.
Yeah. It's got a slight crack in it that I'm going to fix one day.
Yeah.
But don't forget this went on tour.
It went on tour. It's seen live.
I mean, this has been, this has played every download show in 1996.
It's a sound. If you know some of the sounds from, say, the beginning of Omni-Man.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. That's bizarre too, though, Mark.
I know.
We've also lost Genesis as well.
Yeah, I know.
So that's like three integral parts of this time period, and then not only that, but we've lost Mark Nugent. So doesn't it start to feel like? Well, I mean, okay, so this is like 28 years ago. Here's like roughly around the time that we're talking about, 1995. And there's no way you can say to yourself, like, wow, what's going to be the upcoming direction that we'll all go, and then you realize that the upcoming direction is recovering from loss of people dying, and then moving forward in ways that we didn't even know we were going to do. But
more photographs by Clancy. Oh, I remember that day very well. Yeah, that was the Opera House in Toronto.
I remember. Yeah, this is when, like, actually, I thought that maybe, because it was strange that the 1996 download tour, some of the venues we played, we had an incredible turnout. Like the Opera House is actually a fair-sized venue in Toronto, and I started thinking, like, wow, we're actually doing quite well right away.
Yeah.
I don't remember any gigs sparsely populated at all. I remember that most of them were like seemingly jammed. So it was like
Heaving, yeah, yeah.
this really lucky period, and we were able to do. I mean, I got to say, still, I don't even know how the 1996 Download European tour happened because it just seemed to get magically funded by Offbeat Records.
Yeah.
They just footed the bill, and it must. I just can't imagine how much it must have cost to get us over there. And
Well, thing is that people nowadays, I mean, I don't know about when you toured with Puppy recently, but the amount of gear that we took was just staggering. I mean, I had one big flight case, the one that you got built for me, and then another flight case full of, all stuff like this. But I mean, it was, and Mark Newton's film stuff went in there as well. But we shipped a shed load of stuff over to Europe.
yeah, and we even use these black trunks that the trunk itself, even without anything in it, it weighs about 200 or 300 pounds, even without anything in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think we used, if we're not mistaken, I'm not too sure if we used two of those, but we certainly used one.
Yeah. I mean, it was a big undertaking, I mean, how many of us went over from Vancouver? About 6 or 7 of us.
It was crazy.
Anthony was there to do the sound, and Russell.
They put us up in Nijmegen, and we went out to the legendary Nils Van Horn from the legendary Pink Dots and solo Magnifico artist. We went out to his farm in Klaverland, and I don't know, man. If anybody you haven't seen this video, download at Nils Farm 1996. It is available publicly on YouTube, and it's just general. I think it was. I'm not too sure if it was Nugent that was filming, Mark Nugent.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah.
It just was basically a capture of a jam that plays out very well. It's kind of one of those things. So check it out. Also, here on Patreon, we also have our 1996 tour in the series department, where you can watch, the actual footage from the tour. If you haven't seen that, go and look under series and check it out. Download.
I remember when I watched that the video from Niels's farm the last time. There was this segment where I think everybody else had gone, and it was just me and Phil, and it was really quiet. And I have to listen to it again, but it was beautiful. I'm like thinking, oh man, it's like, because Phil could really get into that deep zone. He didn't need beats, did he? You could really get into that deep zone of kind of like, almost nothingness.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it in the video pretty clearly about how sort of transcendental it kind of was for him. You could see that he's closing his eyes.
Yeah.
And then he'd always give you that smile where you knew that he was connecting with you with music when you got that smile.
Yeah. He was. I mean, I don't mind saying, I don't think I'll ever come to terms with losing Phil. It's just one of those personalities who, he was an integral part of my world, and it's just such a sort of loss, such an absence of such a wonderful person,
I never realized that time when we went and did WGT, now 11 years ago, 2012, with the three of us together there, that this would be, as special as it really turned out to be for me personally to be with you guys again in Europe, but also, to travel around, and we had kind of like no idea what we were going to do. So we're just kind of like improvise like it all, including like who was going to play drums or what song or whatever. And it was like, it was so fun. And
of course, then the last show was actually in Moscow, wasn't it?
I mean, here it is, something that we can't even do anymore.
It's that Phil on the ground.
Yeah, he's just sitting there chilling out for a minute. Yeah. And this was a beautiful venue. I'm not too sure which one this is called in the WGT, but it was gorgeous. They really hooked us up with fantastic lighting and all sorts of it. But maybe he did for a while. Maybe this was one of your ambient pieces, and we were just sitting.
Yes. One of the funniest memories I have of that tour is that we all arrived in Berlin at around the same time by aircraft. And you were flying in from the States, and Phil had flown in from Vancouver, and I'd flown in from, here. And but he arrived earlier than us. And when we got there, he had this, what can only be described as a kind of hold-all bag. And it was a huge bag, but it was full of synthesizers.
With no cases.
No cases.
No cases, no protection.
They were all like antique Moogs.
It's like he pulled them out. I was like, there's no way that thing can still be, working.
And it went in a hole with no, I here's me, stupid, silly me, like bubble wrapping my, Mac and things, bubble wrapping little toys, and they're filled with a hold all full of wires and, and synthesizers. Just put it through normal baggage on an aeroplane. No protection whatsoever. That's exactly how he was. He's so, I don't give a fuck.
Did he continue like that when Mark and Phil formed a project based on one of the songs from Download called Bee Hatch?
Yeah.
You were able to also tour Europe again with him. And did he arrive once again with his equipment like that?
Well, he didn't bring any keyboards. He came over with a Mac, but I think he needed to buy a MIDI keyboard. So that's the first thing we had to go and do, buy a MIDI keyboard. And then I remember one of the shows he left, it was in Prague, actually. I remember it really well. He left his power supply for his Mac in the venue, and the venue was locked, and we had to leave to drive to another city. We were like knocking on the doors and things. It was like, for this power supply. It was just, this is the guy who.
Because every time I ever played a gig with him, he always had something, and he didn't bring the power supply.
Yeah, that's right.
Almost every time, and we miraculously find it.
And he was never sort of like, I'd be like panicking, thinking, "Oh, the tour's over," because we can't, we don't have any power for his Mac. It's like, and he'd be like, "I'll just buy another one." It's just...
Yeah, thankfully, that didn't happen when we got to Russia. Oh, it's so funny. If you guys want to check out something funny, go on YouTube and check out the videos for Plateau, or I think it's Plateau, 2 Plateau videos that are just what we did when we were in St. Petersburg that night. We got invited to a party, and when we got there, there was some DJ booth up there. I said, we were like, "Who's DJing?" And they're like, "You are." And so it all got captured on video, and then Phil was trying to communicate with these girls by writing it down. It was easier to write down something and then for them to respond. It was just an absolutely classic experience, though. Great photo.
Yeah. I think Rihanna took that, didn't she?
It's possible.
Yeah, I think so.
Really nice. But I think people were asking, like, how did Bee Hatch come about, and how was that?
How did it come about? I think we just started to, because I would go for a period of time and we wouldn't communicate very much. And I think it was after he'd been in LA, or I think he was still in LA, but he just said, let's make some music together. So he sent me some sounds, and the first album was put together really, really quickly, I think. And it just like, wow, we've done an album. We've done an album. And then within months, we'd done a second album. I think we released 2 albums in 1 year. And it just, every so often he would sort of like send me an email and say, "I think it's time to do another Bee Hatch album." It was like, okay. But we happened to have a very supportive label at the time, Lens from Chicago. And they really helped us and supported us. And I managed to put together a tour of Europe that was, I think I described it as a social work tour, because everywhere we went, Phil and I seemed to be helping people. It was really, it was just one of the, you meet a homeless person on the street, and it's like the next thing you know, you're kind of like helping them out or whatever. It was just but he was that kind of guy as well. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was really chaotic and a lot of fun. You know, I enlisted a friend of mine from Germany to play bass on the tour because we felt it would be useful to have a live musician. And that he just fit in really, really well, really easily. And there's three of us in a station wagon, really, you know. With Phil driving, and I have to say he was an outstanding driver.
Oh, wow.
He's one of the
Phil
safest
driving.
drivers. Yeah, one of the safest drivers you could imagine. He was just really sort of conscientious, you know. And it was not like he was in many respects to other things, you know. He was just really Mr. Safe.
And you can pick these albums up on the Dead Voices in Our Bandcamp. Is that the beat?
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
there is a separate one for BHatch actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a separate Bandcamp page for BHatch.
A
We
special.
released, yeah, we released four albums,
Oh, there it is. B-Hatch. So go under B-Hatch, folks, and there it is.
and then there's a few sort of rarities that I put out, like live shows and things. But
Yeah.
obviously, didn't play live a lot, probably about 12 times. But
I remember that B-Hatch on the, it was on Furnace, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because I
yeah.
remember that, you know, because we had just met Phil and we didn't really know even like what his sound was yet. I think that B-Hatch was really one of the first defining moments of what would be Phil's sound.
Yeah,
Phil's
I mean,
kind of like style.
everything was in there, wasn't it? He had
Yeah.
a certain approach to making beats that was unmistakably him, but he also had this kind of melodic sense that was, well, you know, BHatch, the track to me is just achingly beautiful. That refrain that goes through it, it's just gorgeous, you know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he sampled some vocals, some voices, and manipulated them.
Phil was a master, and like, you know, we've all witnessed like what Dwayne and Phil can do, and I always sit there and go, I still don't know how he did that. There's only a couple of people on the earth, as far as synthesizer players and stuff like that I can say that about, and you know, those two are definitely them.
Yeah,
But
for me,
I was
yeah,
able to learn so much from those guys too.
yeah.
So I consider that the experience was, you know, invaluable making these albums with these guys.
You know what I think it is, and I think I think it's quite a rare commodity. I think they actually had soul. You know, they put their soul into what they were doing. There was a sense of themselves and identity. You've got it too, by the way. You're just going to be too modest because you've got that melodic sense
You
as
do
well.
too.
You know,
Mark
you know,
Mark is the master of his world. Like,
it's a very small world.
Here, okay. Fuck you, Kevin.
Love you, man. Love your music, man. That's what Mark Nugent always used to say. We had this joke, you know, he would always finish a phone call. He would say, "Love you, man. Love your music, man."
Well, the one thing's for sure, man, is that like when we did make music, like we went down the collective portal together. You know, absolutely. I don't know where we went, but wherever it was a portal into another thing. And I think somebody was asking me about, they would like to know the story or the memory on Energy Plan. And it's like, I don't know if you remember that night, but that night, Dwayne had decided that he was going to take some very heavy liquid acid.
Oh, yeah.
And so the rest of us were jamming, and Dwayne was on the floor, just like writhing.
He was, yeah.
And I'll never forget that as we were laying down a version of that has the very loud fire engines.
Yeah.
And the sounds that were just so goddamn loud
Yeah.
that everybody I know, it edged everybody. And Dwayne was like literally squirming, and he gave me this terrified look. And he looked up at me and said, "Are you Jesus Christ?"
And what he did, he came over to me and he just looked at me and he just gave me this huge hug. And he just said, "Mark, tonight you were making music for me and only me." I'm like, "Yeah, Dwayne." Yeah, I
It
was
was.
today. Yeah.
That was a memory that I will never forget, because even I was scared by the sound of what was coming out of the speakers at that point. I was terrified.
You know what? There was a in what in some of the tracks that we did. I think the Turin Shroud is another one. Glassblow maybe. There's a few where we reach this kind of what I would only describe as a violent energy. And it's all positivity. It's not to say, well, it's not to say we're going to kill you, although we did say that as well. Um, there was we got to this place where we could express rage in a really positive way. And I thought that was at the heart and soul of it, really. It was, there was some angry stuff in there. And I'm very proud of it, and I think we blew quite a few people's brains, to be honest, in a really
Well, I think what was
positive way.
interesting about it is that I had no idea about, I love the collective energy, but it was so interesting to not know where it would lead. You'd feel it, you could sense it, but then to witness and carve it and whittle down this to this thing of what it was. I mean, by the time, losing Dwayne before the release of the album, I mean, that is just nuts.
I
To
know.
lose somebody
Yeah, I
when
know.
you just finished. I remember we were in the studio mixing, and then all of a sudden Dwayne had to leave, and I had to basically send him to the train station where he had to go home, or to the bus station. And then so he never even heard the final version of Furnace. I always thought that's a really weird concept.
Yeah.
That propelled us to make Eyes of Stanley Payne, which, you know, I guess, the collaboration with Ken Marshall and everybody on that with effects, and the way that all came together was seemingly like almost like this weird healing experience where
Yeah. Yeah.
it was like, Phil had completely lost it, and he had totally taken off to India for months and months and months, and I thought I would possibly never hear from him again. So we did most of he's basically on like one song on Eyes of Stanley Payne, and he called us after and said, he had gone through an emotional journey like where we were. We were, expressing in music and about to go on tour. And Phil called me and was like, "Oh man, I think I would really love to, be a part of it again." And I was like, "Come on back." And he came back to a royalty check, and he was like, "Oh my God, you just saved my life." And it was just one of these times when, without that, in our time after losing Dwayne, and all sorts of like weird personal things were happening, like disintegrations of our old relationships, like my situation with Rave, or just all this crazy stuff. And then so like the healing of it was, I get to make a band with like the most gentle components of Skinny Puppy, his best friend, and then you, my most inspiring friend that we now hang out with, is like nothing but like, I don't know, positive motivation, almost like spiritual direction. And so the outcome, was immensely satisfying. And
Yeah, I agree. I can also remember at the time us all having the same sense of direction as well, which I think really helped because we all liked all of the different components that we brought to it. So there was that sense of, how does what I do fit into this? Well, you, Dwayne, and Phil all liked what I did, and I liked what you did. And Dwayne and Phil were really pushing the boat in the direction of the new kind of, at the time, it was very sort of radical techno music that was coming out, the minimal stuff. And I mean, both of them had a real knowledge of it and a real sort of like, mastery over it. So there was all these different elements coming together, but there was the one clear direction. And that all focused on playing music together. It was classic. It's almost like being in a jazz band, wasn't it? Really getting together and improvising together.
well, I always considered it really cool that, I guess I was continuing on with the more harder, I guess you call it, industrial noise. And as you say, you absolutely correct how Dwayne and Phil had kind of morphed into this, like, coming from, having heard Asen and and Aphex Twin, and the beginnings of that scene. They're definitely bringing that element. But you, Mark, what I always considered as amazing is that you came from the master Soviet France trained background. Actually, the Shouting at the Ground is my most favorite Soviet France record, and I learned that that's largely your sound, even though you were integrate all with Ben and all those guys who are lovely, who are also lovely musicians. But like what I considered to be quite the blessing was having this headbutt between all of those styles, and then you could have a voice integration by the true master of what the beginning of it all was about. There's like throwing some Genesis Pjorge stuff that he contributed, and it's just you start thinking about, well, could this ever happen again? No, I don't think so.
I think what I was a bit like the human sampler, really, wasn't I? I wasn't sampling anything in those days at all. So every sound you hear is an organic piece of sound,
real instruments.
But there was a sort of template for that as well. I think part of the template was around something like the music that Can made. So in the early days of Can, if you listen to they had a classically trained keyboard player, and all you would hear really is like an atonal kind of noise in the background.
Yeah.
So it's almost like it's almost like that kind of. I mean, that would work on top of techno music for sure, and that's what I was doing. That's what I was adding to, I guess.
Some people in the questions I've been making reference to them as we've been talking too. As a Stanley Payne is one of my favorite albums. Thanks, Matthew. The bass metal, especially the accompanying remix on Sidewinder. Who came up with the effect that runs through the song? It was Running Water, right?
It's Ken Marshall.
I think Ken recorded that in Malibu when we were making the process. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like water coming from a drain pipe, I think.
Water from the drain pipe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super inspiring.
I mean, Ken was like, you're very disciplined in the studio, very disciplined. And, you would work, it was like a day job. You would come to work at a certain time and you would stay there like 8 or 10 to 12 hours, working. But he would do the same thing. But we always worked in shifts, didn't we? Because he would come early and would leave about tea time or something like that. And I would come at tea time and stay with you. And we would have some dinner together, and then we would do my work on an evening.
Yeah.
So that was it was almost like in shifts, because Ken was really, Ken was I don't know if he would work until a certain time when he like 5 or 6 at night, and I'd say, right, gotta go now. Just think question that from Chris Mackey about what my favorite tequila is. You know what?
Come on, there's Chris Mackey in the house.
I haven't got a clue, because every time, well, the only time I've gotten drunk with him was drinking tequila, and I could have been drinking turpentine for all I know. Right, yeah.
So there is no favorite tequila then?
I'm not a tequila expert at all.
Me neither.
I'm not entirely sure I've drank any tequila that I haven't enjoyed, I must admit. I probably wouldn't like the one that's got a worm in it, but apart from that.
Yeah, I haven't tried that. I haven't tried mezcal. But hey, Curse, big up to you. Thanks man. Guys for all your thing. Brian, I hope we answered your question about B-Hatch coming from Furnace and so on. Stubborn Puppet. Hey, Mark, just wanted to say that those 2 DVOA Snowbeast collabs albums are some of the best material I've heard. I've listened to X more than any other album I've owned since its release. Hope there's more of that on the way. Yeah, well, the Snowbeast keeps saying, yeah, well, I'm going to send you some stuff. So send me some stuff. And there'll be another album. What is Snowbeast? What's going on with this? They're from Providence, Rhode Island. Beth and Rob. I first met Rob when I played a show over there. He was just incredibly kind to us, and I think he took us back to the Boston airport. Robin and I. He's just a really nice guy. So I thought, yeah, let's make some music together. I had fun. One of my favorite things you've ever collabed on is your KK Null album.
Ah, yeah, yeah,
That's that, that
yeah. That's yeah. He's a really sweet guy as well. Really, really
first time I
sweet.
heard that, I had to listen immediately again. I love albums like that where it's like, wait, I that was just too good. I need to hear it.
And I don't know if you're a friend of his on Facebook, but
I am.
if you're
I'm a
not,
personal friend of his too.
right, because he posts these absolutely beautiful photographs of his little black chihuahua
Every single day.
every single day. It's like-
Yeah, he's another animal boy.
and he takes him for a walk in a little like pushchair. Like,
Yep. And
oh,
he
it's lovely.
seems to like gear everything about his day around, is it like Masuko or something, the dog's name or something?
Maruto. Yeah,
Around Maruto. And
yeah,
yeah, I think that's just,
yeah. He's absolutely beautiful.
I become like that too. I mean, actually, if
Yeah.
I hold back now on posting as many pictures as of the animals as I would like to, but that's how it is. But okay, you're still working on tons of new stuff. You
I am.
were one of the most prolific guys. Someone is asking, how do you keep up the flow and keep it up with your projects? You got so much going on. Where do we start?
Well, the first and most important point is I'm retired. So what else have I got to do? But I'm super excited at the moment, and the reason is that I was in a band. No problem. I'll keep talking because there's people listening. I was in a band 36 years ago with a couple of friends from this area, and I hadn't seen them for 36 years. And we made contact, and one of them, Martin, came around, and we started to dabble with some music. And then one day, about 3 months ago, I was in the car, and I thought, well, Martin's coming around tomorrow. Should we invite Steve around, who used to be the bass player in the band? And I was just on my phone, and I texted him, would you like to come around? He said, yes, I'll be around. So he comes around. So Martin and Steve, since then, we've been recording together pretty much non-stop for the last, 3 months. And we've done one album that's 70 minutes long, and it's like a collage. And it's essentially, I don't know if it's going to freak people out. I probably won't, but people who listen to my music, but it's going to get released on UMP and Emergency Hearts as soon as we got all the artwork sorted out.
And what's the name of that project?
Well, we're calling it Dead Voices on Air, Dadu. So this project is called Dadu, but we're going to stick with the Dead Voices on Air name as well. Mainly because of, it really helps to kind of like anchor it, that we're not starting a new side project,
So
But
you used to play with these guys in bands before?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was in 2 bands with Steve.
Big up, Steve.
And, Steve is 6'7", and Martin's 6'3". Yeah. And he's a great, fantastic bass player. Martin's just this Keith Levine kind of, Andy Gill noise.
He's wearing
guitarist.
a certain ratio shirt.
That's right.
Man, I'm telling you, any bass player that knows about that goodness and bass. Then
Martin and I used to be in the Hunt Saboteurs together, like nearly 40 years ago. So we've started to play together and having a wonderful time. And we recorded a single that we did it the day before it was released. And it was to coincide with the coronation of King Charles, who, needless to say, I'm not a fan of.
Yep.
And you're probably familiar with the song, the Gang of Four song.
To hell with poverty.
So we did a cover version of the Gang of Four song, but called it "To Hell with Monarchy."
What?
Yeah,
that's not out yet, is it?
Yeah, it is. It is out. It's on. I think it's on the Emergency Hearts Bandcamp page.
Emergency Hearts.
Emergency Hearts, yeah. And it'll be going up on all of the Spotify things. Basically, Emergency Hearts is now digitally managing my entire back catalogue. So all the ones I've got the rights to. So it's something like they're actually sort of like putting out all of my stuff, something like 95 releases on digital platforms, Spotify, etc.
Wow, 95 releases?
Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah. So yeah, this is, we're very much part of this area that we're from. So this is a sad photograph, really, because sad as far as I'm concerned, and the other members of Dadu are concerned, because this is part of the industry of this area that was closed down, and it's just all been leveled. So over the last 8 months or so, this has been completely leveled. And so, a lot of the subject matter that we're dealing with in our songs, because there's songs, there's more traditional stuff that people would say, oh yeah, that sounds like Dead Voices in there, and there'll be a 1 minute 30 pop song thrown in there
Nice.
as well.
I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, well,
Send me the
yeah,
links. I'll post
I
them
will. Yeah,
if people would like to hear it.
yeah. But we're having a ball with it. Really excited about it. When you get that sort of sense of, it's lovely because I'm playing the drums mainly, Kevin.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, I mean, it's guitar, bass, and drums with all sorts of noises over the top of it.
It must be so much fun.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun because all of the stuff that we do is recorded live, and then I'll take it away and manipulate it, and cut it and edit it and add stuff to it. But we're having so much fun with it. It's really exciting. We're going to play live as well.
Oh, when?
Well, we're going to play live in this area, which I've never done. I've never played a show in this area.
Oh.
We're just reaching out to people at the moment and saying, "Would you like to put a show?" And they're like saying, "Who are you?" I'm like, "Oh, nobody. I just want to play live. I just want to play live. We'll play anywhere. If anybody wants to put a show on, you just have to get us over there, three of us."
And I'm sure people would love it. I mean, you're known to collaborate with bands like in areas where you go and play, like such as the Drude, when you're visiting in Colorado or in the U.S. Is it they become like regular what you would call it, your North American?
Yeah. Well, we're actually. I'll explain this photograph in a mix. This is a lovely story behind this photograph. Yeah, but the Drude is. I'm actually working on an album with them at the moment, Dead Voices and Air Drude, and that should be done pretty soon, actually. And it's an album of songs. That's Nathan from the Drude. But the other photograph, if you go back there 1 second, this is quite a memorable photograph. The guy on the left is called Quinn the Eskimo, and he was in the Butthole Surfers. I think he was the original bass player in the Butthole Surfers. The guy in the stripy shirt is Bob Dog Catlin, who was in Evil Mothers, but is a regular in Pigface.
All right.
And that, of course, is the wonderful human being, elfin self, Curse Mackey.
Mr. Curse Mackey. Hey, Curse, what's your favorite tequila? For those of us that need to get that answered.
And this is a guy. Oh, that's Nathan and Daniel from the Drude. And this guy in the bunny suit. There's a funny story behind that. I mean, I've played in Denver a lot, mainly because of Randall. Randall Frazier, who's now in the Pink Dots from Orbit Service. And Randall's taken me over several times to play in Denver. And every time I played, I'd be looking into the audience, and there'd be this white bunny in the audience. I'm like going, what the fuck is this? It's this white bunny.
Is it a mystery bunny? Is he a mystery bunny?
So anyway, I now know who he is, and we've
become
friends. And and we I don't know if you know, but after we did those shows, we did the Drude and I. We did a song live, which was White Nights by Psychic TV. Santa Claus is checking his list, going over it twice. And so I'll come to that in a sec. And so we actually got the bunny, Justin, to be the cover of the single that we released of White Nights, which was released for Christmas because it's a Christmassy single, and Justin is on the cover. And some of you will know this lady, but this is Ali, aka Dizzy Pixel.
There she is, Dizzy Pixel. If you've ever seen visuals by Dizzy Pixel, there she is. Ali, pick up Ali. Ali lives in Colorado.
Yeah.
And I believe she popped in for a second on your legendary Pink Dots Dead Voices on Air chat. a little ways back there.
Oh, okay, yeah, right.
Yeah,
Right, she was setting up. Yeah, I mean, she every time I've played in Denver, Ali has projected her visuals, and she's
yeah,
stunning at what
same.
she does.
Every
Yeah,
time I've ever
yeah,
played
yeah,
there too,
yeah.
anything DJ wise or whatever. But so where is this? Where is the project with the Drude released? Is it another Bandcamp or is it on your?
No, it's going to be on Emergency Hearts, and the guy there with the white hair is Scott Crow, who is the guy behind Emergency Hearts. So this was taken just outside his house, actually, in Austin.
Big up
Um,
Emergency Hearts, and
yeah,
that's on Bandcamp. Just Emergency Hearts label.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Emergency Hearts have got the huge catalog. I mean, I keep getting asked very kindly to do remixes, and the last one I did, actually, I've done 3 recently. One was Lee Scratch Perry and Mark Stewart.
yeah, I know. I really want to hear that. Is
Yeah,
that out
but it's
yet?
on the Bandcamp. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's on.
Okay,
It's on.
you got to send me these links because
Yeah,
I
yeah. I will. I will.
but you ever
And then
notice
I
that
did.
like you know there was a guy that I used to see all the time when we go there named Jesus Penis.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
Jesus Penis was a pretty old school electronics guy. I'm pretty sure he's still around there, Jim. Big up, Jim. But like one thing I noted is that the Austin scene has a very eclectic knowledge of experimental.
Oh
You
yeah,
ever noted
yeah,
that for
yeah,
some
yeah.
reason in Austin there's a hotbed of interest in things that like most normal people don't even know about?
It's Texas, isn't it? San Antonio too. That's where the Butthole Surface were. Evil
Yeah.
Mothers. Yeah. That's a guy called Steve Marsh, who I've also collaborated with. We did this album. I absolutely love it. It's he worked with this kind of legendary. I don't know how you describe him, but he plays banjo and fiddle. This guy called Ralph White, who was in a band called the Bad Livers, and we did an album together with Steve. I remixed an album that he done with Ralph. So it's this strange combination of kind of.
What's that
Uh,
called?
that's called Three Distinguished Gentlemen.
Again on Emergency Hearts?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
there you go. Three
yeah.
distinguished gentlemen. Does it have anything to do with Waffle House?
I wish it did have, actually. I mean, if we toured again, you and I, we should get Waffle House to sponsor us.
Yeah, yeah. But I love you. I love seeing you in Texas, like how your humor kind of slightly changes and how you become like you get like that drawl. And I don't know when you get to Texas, you just adopt that drawl,
Yeah.
like this English drawl.
Yeah. I suppose. Yeah, I suppose.
Edward does it
Wherever
too.
Yeah, wherever you go, because I'm English, it's like it's always the first topic of conversation with somebody when they meet you, isn't it? It's like you're from jolly old England. It's not very jolly.
Mark, apparently I can't hide my Canadian as well. Everywhere I go, there was like, you're from Canada. I was like, I thought my accent, like, it's funny how you can't really hear your own accent, but whatever.
Yeah.
We're okay with it. When we get to Austin, we turn into some sort of like mix of like, y'all, hey, y'all, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I love it because it's so different to where I'm from. Do you know what I mean? It's so different.
Yeah,
I absolutely love it. Yeah.
So
I asked them to take me to cowboy stores to buy hats and things, and they're like, "You want to go there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do."
No, we all like the things that they've had enough of.
Yeah.
So what's this that you're working on? Squee.
Zeke.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a guy. This all happened because of Emergency Hearts as well. So he was releasing stuff on Emergency Hearts, and Scott just said, "I think you should collaborate with Zeke, who's on Emergency Hearts." So got in touch with him, and he lives in Lancashire. He's actually from the area that your folks are from originally, that kind of area.
Wow.
In Lancashire. And obviously I'm from Yorkshire, and when we started to work on it, we thought, oh, okay, let's do an album that's about Yorkshire, Lancashire. So I don't know if it is really, because it's very, he mainly sent the samples that he sent to me were mainly kind of field recordings.
Interesting.
Really nice stuff. Yeah. But that's coming out this week, actually.
So how does it?
Um,
How does music? How do you throw in a theme that makes it ideally Yorkshire or Lancashire?
well, I mean, I don't, I don't know because it's not as though we're going, by gum lad, which is Yorkshire, you know. We're not doing anything like that. I mean, it's just, I think, I think it's just, I mean, there is a story there. Do you remember Alexander Varty?
Sure, from Vancouver, he's a
George,
writer, music
yeah,
reviewer.
Georgia Strait. And he's a musician as well, actually, guitarist. But Alex was around my house one time in Vancouver, and I was playing some music. And it was this kind of, I forgot what it was, Thomas Kerner. And he was talking about my music, and he said, you know, Mark, he said, do you know what your music reminds me of? And I says, what? He says, the northeast of England. And I'm like going, well, he said, that's where my dad was from. And I've been over there. And it said, it just reminds me of the landscape of the northeast of England. And I'm like going, isn't that strange? Because I just done an album, Piss Front, and the second two discs, and the second disc is named after places in the northeast of England, like different mountains or areas. I'm like going, I hadn't even twigged about the fact that here I am, I'm obsessed with kind of poetry like Beowulf, you know, the Nordic language, which is all about, you know, heavily influenced the way we speak here because of the Vikings coming over. You know, a lot of the places where I live I've got Nordic sounding titles, you know. And here am I releasing an album, and it's full of like words to do with the northeast of England. And he's absolutely
love
right.
that.
Of course I'm doing that. You know, I'm trying to capture something. And it
You
was
were
not
always great at that.
conscious.
I think a lot of the words that you used to put into download were also based on Northern English.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ripped straight out of the poem Beowulf. A lot of them. Occasionally, I would actually translate them as well, so that they made sense to me. At least it's probably very, very poor linguistic study, really. But I mean, you know, if I, you know, what's that song we did? Hate Herd. Is that one of ours?
I don't know. We've done so many.
The Furnace, I think.
What was it called?
Is it called Hate Herd?
I don't know. It doesn't ring a bell.
No, maybe that's a Dead Voices and Air song.
Could be.
I don't know. There is a song on Furnace that has got Norwegian words in it, Nordic words in it, that I actually translated from Beowulf, and I'm singing them in English. It might be. Oh God, what's the bloody song?
I think I remember you doing that, and so yeah, very well documented within the work of.
But I'm really annoyed now. I think I've got Furnace up here. Hang on.
Okay, he's got to go check the notes. But let's read his board. Let's see what he's got coming up there. It looks like, hold on. You see his notes. We're going to be one step ahead.
Sigasang.
Sigasang.
Yeah. Sigasang. Yes. It's Hate Song, I think.
You know, Mark was always one of the best guys to be in a band with when it came up to making song titles. He'd be like,
I think, isn't this the one where we actually printed the lyrics?
Oh, it's highly possible.
Yeah, we printed the lyrics.
You're
So
gonna have some-
Kanaya.
Oh, right.
Gures, Jamas, Salis, Somat, Lamur.
Regrets. I remember that one. Regrets or something.
Yeah.
I always used to love it because I would be the first person to hear it coming out of your mouth through the mic into the control room, and I was just like, yes, what is that?
Yeah. This screaming hate song, Sega sang. Yeah. This is not a message. This is not a warning sign.
So you've also been busy even as a result of some of our chats, and great to hear that you're working on a song with Graham Lewis again.
Yeah, well, an album actually.
Album.
Yeah, well, I mean, it didn't start out as an album, but after the chat that we did, and I think in Yorkshire we have this saying: "Shy bairns get out, shy children get nothing." And I thought, Graham and I really got on, and I thought there was like, we clicked. And I said, "Would you like to collaborate on some music?" He said, "Yes." I thought, "Okay, right," because I don't, it's very humbling, but it's also very risky, isn't it, to make music with people who you really admire? Because to me, I think if there were sort of like two bands who I'd say were my favorite bands when I was growing up, it was definitely Canon and Wire. Um, and but yeah, so we started on with me sending him some stuff, and then immediately we sort of got into it, and we're now on to, I think, track 6.
Oh wow, man!
So
That's what I'm saying. The guy's so prolific. It's like, come on, Mark. You never stop.
but that's
You're always
probably
going.
8 months.
Oh, 8 months time, huh?
Yeah. No, we've probably taken 8 months to do 6 tracks.
Right.
But we're definitely nearly finished, and we're actually working on art at the moment with a friend of mine called David Babbitt from Chicago. So we're very close to getting this thing done, and that's going to
What's it
come out.
sound?
Well, it sounds strangely enough. Have you heard any of Graham's solo albums? Graham's been very prolific over the years, but you can definitely, when he plays the bass, I can definitely tell it's Graham's bass playing. But I'll send you a track. I did the other day. I sent you a track.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. No, that's exciting, and great collaborations. I know that hadn't you collaborated with him before, or was it Joshen that you did the collaboration with previous?
Oh yeah, Jochen, yeah, Jochen Arbeit, yeah, from Neubauten, yeah.
We did this chat with him, and then you said that you also struck up the conversation to make some new recordings with him.
No, I'd actually done that before our chat.
Okay,
that's
that
how
was before.
Yeah, but Jochen and I had worked on stuff some number of years ago, and then we just it was one of those things that I didn't forget about it, but it kind of got put on the back shelf, because we met up once in London at a concert. And another lovely guy. We went to an exhibition at the Tate Modern together as well. It's really nice.
I have to say, out of the some 244 chats, apparently it is, that I've done, the most enjoyable one that I ever did was partaking in this chat with you.
What a lovely man.
With John Foxx. I'll almost have to say that after we finished this one, I almost felt like, well, I can stop now.
I know. And he's definitely somebody who I did not have the courage to ask whether or not he would like to collaborate on something, because I just wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to even. Wouldn't even want to risk the possibility of him saying no. Because it was such a lovely chat. It was so lovely.
For me, it was the peak, and I was so happy to share it with you on this. Is something that
me too. Yeah,
we've done a few chats together, but this one was like beyond for me. I mean, for me, John Foxx. I mean, you go back and listen to his stuff, and it's like he's always going to be like the guy. He's always going to be, the man. And the only thing that I realized after the chat that I kind of learned after is I kind of realized that we were talked about how he was witness that night at the Patti Smith concert to the entire punk scene about to explode. He said, Johnny Rotten was over there, and Sid Vicious was over there, and the Clash was over there, and so-and-so was over there. And it's like, you could just feel it about to explode. But then I heard him speaking after that about he was at the Pink Floyd concert where they dished out everybody acid in the Kool-Aid, which was like a huge transitional point in the 60s between like sort of like corporate world and complete, what was it called, Mark? It had a fancy name too. It was called the Queen's something or other. It's like thinking like that John has like been there and seen the transition between sort of like all of these like huge vibrance changes in music that happened like abruptly over there in the UK. That
Well, if you think about it, he's 10 years older than us. So so he was but at the same age that you and I were when punk happened.
yeah,
But it was the back end of the 60s. So you know, if he was
you
in
saw
London
that.
at the time, then you know, and he was interested in strange music, then he'd be hanging out at clubs like UFO where Pink Floyd were playing, and there was all that stuff going on in London at the time.
Yeah, there was
So
one quintessential festival. It has a name that I'm forgetting right now, but it's something like the ball. There's something ball, but like
I know what you mean. Yeah,
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 Floyd and like
yeah, yeah. John Lennon was there. Yeah,
yeah, John Lennon was
yeah,
walking around. That's actually
yeah.
what John Foxx was talking about. It's like
That's right.
Kurt
Yeah,
was
that's right.
there, and all these people was like,
Yeah,
well, you could feel the change on the page. But I mean,
that's right.
actually, to get a chance to actually, you know, just for us to sit down and just chat with him was just phenomenal. So I got his book, and it's
All
a
right.
phenomenal book as well. And you were telling me you were working on a book as well.
Yeah. Well, I was encouraged to do it through by Scott at Emergency Hearts, who's also an author, and he said, "You know what? Just tell your story." So I just basically what I've done is I've written a kind of book about the way that I make music. Um,
That's
I,
perfect.
I I don't, you know, you're probably the same as me. I hate those sort of kiss and tell books that people write musicians where they slag everybody else off. Hate them with a passion. Um, so I just, you know, it's only about 60 odd pages long. I've had, you know, help with the editing of it, and my friend David Babbitt is, you know, helping me with formatting it, and it's coming out this year, hopefully. And you know, there's just, you know, there'll be stories about how we made music together in Download, and
Oh, nice.
the various people I've collaborated with. But it's all very positive, and it's just thoughts really about how I've gone about doing what I do. It's not academic or anything, but you know, I'm hopefully it's kind of easy to read.
Well, I know you, and you're a phenomenal artist as far as like your drawings and your textural stuff that you do as well. So is the book going to contain like all of these things that I love about your work,
It's
like
going
what
to
you
have,
do?
yeah, it's going to have some images in it, yeah. But I'm also working on an image book because over the last sort of 10 years or so, I've really got into using the iPhone as a means of making art.
Oh, wow.
Um,
So
so it's
what
just going
sort
to
of
be a
apps?
book of iPhone photographs, basically. But I mean, this is for the Dadu album. So, you know, we work with this label in Hong Kong. Um, so what he does is, it's a guy called Ewan. He, um, he's a printer by trade, but he goes to ridiculous lengths to make album releases look incredibly special. So, we've
Perfect
made
for you.
110 pieces of individualized artwork that he mounts. So they look, you know, professional. And you get basically when you buy the CD, you get a piece of homemade art as well, signed piece of homemade art.
So, and which project is this for?
This is Dadu.
For Dadu coming on
Yeah,
Emergency
yeah,
Arts. So
yeah,
everyone can go and order this and get one of these original arts here.
yeah. Well, what I'm doing with several releases at the moment, which is really exciting, is that two labels. Emergency Hearts is doing all the digital stuff, all the streaming, and in this case, the label UMP from Hong Kong, he's doing the physical release. And with the Drude album that I'm doing and the Zeke album, that's coming out on a label I think it's Wes Turner, Remission Entertainment. I think he's in Oklahoma or Kansas City or somewhere around there, you know, the
Yeah.
prairies. So Wes is handling all the physical stuff, T-shirts and things like that, you know.
Well, the book certain to me sounds incredibly interesting. I think that that's a good thing to do when you've got such a creative approach to the way that you make music. I mean, I've seen you do it, and I remember how inspiring it was when you said to me, I went to your house and you only allowed me to have like one thing. It's like just one thing, and you're going to make a sound on that one thing.
Well,
And
that's
typically, you're
partially
not
because
going to.
we only had one thing.
Yeah, yeah. You just had one thing, And I kind of realized, oh, this is like an exercise in minimalist thinking, or an exercise in we used to have a word for it, an exercise in refraining. So it's like basically a wonderful lesson coming upon a person that was used to throwing in way too much. So it's like
Well,
it's really brilliant.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, if I set the scene for those recording sessions, I mean, I wrote about this in the book as well. But yeah, I mean, it was when we first started, you and I making music together, we were living in a very small one-bedroomed apartment in Kitsilano.
Yep.
And so I had hardly any gear because I'd just come over from the UK, and but I bought a 4-track, and I think I rented from Long McQuaid. Is it?
Yeah.
Is that yeah?
Yep.
From Long McQuaid, I rented a Boss SE50 effects unit, and a friend of mine lent me a keyboard, and then at some point in time, my friend Scott, who I was working with in Dead Voices in A, he lent me a couple of old Moogs as well, if you remember, which I couldn't get a sound out of. You could, but
I remember that's what you had when I went over there. Was
yeah.
I think it was like the real old school Rogue. I think it was. Was it possibly the Moog Rogue?
No, it was one of those Moogs that had a guitar arm on it.
Oh yeah, no, the guitar. It was the Moog guitar.
That's
right. I
right.
held on to that thing.
I know. Anyway, so I had hardly any gear at the time. So what we did was we would bring out whatever gear we had, and I happened to have and I had contact mics. That's what I had, contact mics. I had a log barrel. Do you remember a copper log barrel? Still got it. It's in the house. And so we just stuck a contact mic under the copper barrel, and you were drumming on it. And that came out on the track called Vran that was on New Words Machine. And you were doing this junka 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 junka. And that was you and I recording, and that's how it started. So it obviously meant something, didn't it? Because we ended up doing downloads again.
Yeah, no, what I so much enjoyed, the I called it like training that I received from you. So
I mean, this is where I'm going to rub your ego a little bit, because I know you don't like it, but 2 days ago I was in here recording with Martin and Steve. And Martin does some vocals and I do vocals. Steve does vocals. We all do vocals. But anyway, Martin was doing some vocals. And I was very conscious of the fact that I was kind of like being the Kevin Key. So when I did vocals with you in the studio, they're like, "No, stop. Do it again. You can do better than that. Do it again." And I'd like do the vocal. I think that was great. And you go, "Mark, I think you should just do that one again." I'd be like, "Oh, okay, all right. You're right. Yeah, let's do it again." I'll do it again. You're like, going, "One more time."
Apparently I've become known for this.
And it's like, do you know what? And do you know why? Because you could hear whether or not it was good enough. And if it's not good enough, do it again. I mean,
something speaks to me about when it was be absolutely right. And you say, here, there's something get close. I would keep the track before, but I'd get you to do it again. And then I'd just be like, okay, let's see. And in some cases, I'd maybe go back and use the very first take.
Yeah, I know. So I was doing the same with Martin. I was like, "Oh dear, I feel like I'm almost kind of bullying him." But he was like, "No, you're not. No, you're not. Don't worry about it. No, we're just trying." I was like, So I think what you taught me is technique, and I think I didn't have any really technique at how to coax the best possible result out of a microphone, for example. Without totally overloading it. I remember you would do things like keep your head still. It's like, well, because you're actually singing into a microphone. If I'm going like that, then I'm not singing into the microphone, am I? I'm going like that. So thank you. You taught me, lessons that I've learned. A very small number of very basic skills that I've continued to make the very most out of, because I'm, as you know, remarkably reluctant to learn new things. you can devour a manual and learn how to use something, whereas I would probably use the manual to set, to light a fire with.
Well, you got a question here about Mark. How are you enjoying the Tour de France this year?
Oh yeah, it's been fantastic. I mean, every year it has something. It finished today, and Jonas Vingegaard won, the Danish rider. But yeah, it's been really exciting. I mean, it was almost like every day it was like watching two heavyweight boxers like slug each other out. These two guys, Pogacar and Vingegaard. And then we had the added excitement of the British rider Mark Cavendish, who unfortunately crashed and broke his collarbone.
Oh no!
In his last Tour de France appearance, going for one more victory that would have made him. He's won 34 stages of the Tour de France, and he shares that record with a guy called Eddie Merckx in the 60s and 70s. And he needed one more to get 35, and he crashed. And he was out of the tour. And it was really sad, But no, it's been, Andrew, it's been a fantastic Tour de France. I've really, really enjoyed it. Awesome. I'm going to miss it dreadfully, actually, because I watch most of the stages live. So, it's like 5 and 6 hours of TV.
Yeah. So when you finish, do you just? I know you're an avid cyclist. Do you just get out there and like? When are you going to do the Tour de France?
Well, I'm not, because there's two reasons. One is I might go out and ride for 70, 80 kilometers max. That's my max over pretty high country. They're going out and riding. They're going out and riding for 2,000. Sorry, they're going out and riding for 200 kilometers.
Yeah,
and it's like 5 and 6 times the amount of feet that I climb every time I'm out. It's just they ride twice as fast as I do. But then again, I'm at least twice as old as they are. So it's like if it started when I was younger, maybe. But yeah.
Do you ever is there like old ruins around there where you live?
Yeah, loads. Yeah. Quite a lot of industrial ruins around, on the moors.
Ancient ruins. I know we know about Stonehenge and stuff like that, but is there any stuff like that around where you are?
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, there's lots of I forgot what they call them now. Cup marks on stones. Ancient people
that had high technology.
Yeah, and there's also you'll see burial mounds all over the North Yorkshire moors, and they're ancient burial mounds. You can spot them for miles, called tumuli. It doesn't take a lot of imagination to work out how things looked in the past, because it was it's pretty similar to how it is now. But the actual area of the moors where I live, the North Yorkshire moors, is not huge. It's not a big area. It's not like Scotland, which is the mountains in British Columbia, which stretch for 1,000 miles, don't they? Really huge, vast sort of territories. It's not like that. It's just very sort of contained. But it's just big, rolling glacial valleys that are very deep. So you're going up and down, up and down, up and down all the time.
God, I have nightmares about big mountains and stuff like that. My whole life, I kind of like had nightmares about mountains and heights and everything like that. And recently, I've been kind of tormenting myself. It's like kind of like watching these shows of guys that will like do a live cam, like climbing K2 or Everest.
Oh yeah,
sit there and be like tormenting myself with these type of images. Well, actually, this was an amazing hike this guy did. It's like straight up, this is the top of Everest and all that type of thing. And lately, there's this strange interest to like, I would never want to hike a mountain like this. It's weird that we were living in Canada there, and I just have zero desire. I'm like, nope, that's it altogether.
I wouldn't do it, but curious enough, I also watch all those mountaineering.
You do too, huh?
Have you seen the movie that was made about I think it's free climber called Alex Honnold?
Yes, yeah, that was so terrifying. I don't know. I find like I am terrified of heights, and basically it just for some reason interests me to see them in the terrifying situation.
I'm not good with heights either. I'm particularly not good with high buildings. I feel really
Especially,
uncomfortable in tall buildings. Like I was taken to the top of the Sears Tower, whatever it's called now in Chicago, and I was absolutely terrified. I was walking
Sears
around
Tower.
the inner wall like this,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I'm the
absolutely
same.
terrified.
I don't like heights. And then the other thing that I've been getting into lately, that well, not lately, but over the last couple of years, is that Don Gordon and I have been chatting about this ever since our Num chat. But like, monolithic construction, like
Oh yeah.
particularly in Peru and Cusco, and I don't know, this whole
Incredible.
this whole world kind of was like kind of blowing me away. I was kind of thinking that you might have some sort of monolithic stuff up there where you guys are.
Yeah, we do. But you know what that immediately reminded me of, especially the first film, Second World War defenses, um, of which there are many around here. You know, you can still find defenses that were made as part of the Second World War.
Hmm.
In this part of the world, it was all to prevent seaborne landings. So there are whole stretches of beaches where you can still see these huge concrete blocks that were put in, and what we call pillboxes. You know that were gun um, bomb-proof little shelters that you've got uh, gun emplacements within. They're all over the place still. There's and I tell you what, there is very. I should take a photograph and send it to you. It's incredible. Just about 100 yards away from here, there's an acoustic sound mirror from the First World War,
Oh wow.
and I'd say it's about 15 feet tall, maybe 15 feet wide, and it's made out of concrete. And this was, and they put us, and it's a concrete ball, and this was, that's Siri talking to me. It's a concrete ball, and it's a sound mirror, and they would have a very sort of primitive method of listening to the sounds that were generated through this mirror, and it was to detect the sound of zeppelins approaching, because
What?
the Germans use zeppelins to bomb the ports around here.
Wow.
And there's two of them within sort of 20 miles of here, and one of which is just around the corner from here. I'll take a photograph and send it to you.
Okay.
It's really
Yeah.
impressive. Yeah,
We
it's
need to
really
see
impressive.
that.
Yeah.
Sound mirror. Sounds like a good concept for an album.
Yeah.
Okay, what would they hear, I wonder? Like, I guess the sound is just the ship.
It's just kind of the reverberation of the engine, I think, that the mirror picks up, and then they've got a very primitive way of amplifying that, then listening to it. It's like an early warning system. It was before the days of radar.
Ah,
So radar was invented about the time of the Second World War, I think. So they got a sort of, understanding that there was aircraft coming over.
interesting. Brian Conley, hey guys, I had the pleasure of seeing you both with Download in '96 at Tramps, New York. I remember that show.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin, for taking a minute to say hello. Sign my ticket stub. Oh, wow, you got a good memory. And Mark, I enjoy your cycling adventure posts.
Ooh.
Ooh. Greg Nelson, I'd like to
Ooh.
give a shout out and kudos to Mark for the recent performance in Denver with the legendary Pink Dots. After some technical difficulties, Mark insisted on restarting the song in progress, which I feel shows a great respect for the material and the audience to ensure that a proper rendition was heard by the fans. This level of professionalism and artistry is definitely appreciated. Question for both of you. If you were able to have a brap session with any three musicians, living or not, who would you want to turn the synths on with? Three?
Holy shit, man. Well, first off, I'm going to say thank you, Gregory, because that is a memory of mine. I remember talking to Nathan and Daniel about it later on, and they were like, saying, Matt, you did exactly the right thing. Because there was just this awful feedback sound, and I thought, you know what, we could do better than this. So we stopped. I said, stop the song, and I said, I've stopped that. We're going to start it again because you deserve it. And I'm like going, no, Anyway, yeah, three people. Blimey.
I'd probably say Phil and Dwayne.
I think
That's
that's a
who it's
really
about. How about Phil, Dwayne, and Genesis P?
That's three. Well, I'll choose. I'll choose three others. Living or not. Turn on the synths with. I probably wouldn't turn on any synths, but because I don't own any. But I don't know.
Jackie Leapsight.
Well, actually, I never played with Jackie, but I was around him a lot. I never actually made music
look
with
at
him.
you.
Yeah.
I was trying to guess who you might choose.
Well, I mean, I'd probably say Michael Karoli, but I did play with him.
You did?
I did. I was in a band with Michael Karoli. Yeah.
Is there any more Michael Karoli recordings that ever got?
You know what? It's really sad. I mean, every show that we did with Michael, most of the shows that we did with Michael, were recorded on DAT. So that was one in Berlin, and I've got the DATs for all of them, but there doesn't seem to be any desire for them to be released. So I've never explored that, and I wouldn't want to, because I think it's not really my, it's not within my remit. It's got to do with Michael's family and the Can family, and but they are very, they're good recordings. I mean, they're really good, clear DAT recordings. But something I was on an album with Michael and Damo called Seattle, because it was recorded live in Seattle.
What a great time that was when you came to town with Damo and.
Oh yeah, you were there. Of course you were.
I was there with Michael Karoli and you and Damo, and I mixed you that night, and
that's right.
They put on such a magical performance, unforgettable.
Yeah,
I had the pleasure of being able to smoke a big fat joint with them beforehand in a van, and I swear they must have got pretty high.
Well, yeah. Oh, that's a friend of ours, Stephen Collins, on the right there.
Oh, big up Stephen from San Francisco.
And we were, because Stephen got involved with the Can thing as well. He was actually working with Holger Chukai when I was working with Michael Karoli. So we were both on the same tour together, and we had a few days off, and we spent it in a friend's artist's loft in Berlin, which was basic to say the least. But I was friends with Dieter Möbius because I'd played some shows with him, and so Mubi showed us around parts of Berlin, which was just wonderful. So if you're not familiar with Mubi, he was
These
in
are all legends, people. Mark standing here with the legends. Like, you're asking who could he work with? Well, he's probably already worked with them.
I never did any music with Mubi, which is sad, because he was absolutely wonderful. He sadly died about, I think, probably close to 10 years ago now.
Already?
Yeah.
It's crazy how fast time seems to be going.
Oh, yeah.
Everything I'll be like, oh, that was 4 years. No, 10. But
Miles Davis, there you go.
Oh yeah.
Miles Davis in his electric phase. That's who I would want to play with.
Miles Davis. I mean, you can imagine if you brought back Miles Davis and Sun Ra or something like that.
Yeah.
You could just magically have them together with you to jam. And that would be, I don't know. See, now you got us thinking in practical ways. It's like, Mark and I will be thinking about this for the rest of the day.
We will.
Any chance for more collaborations? Maybe something in the vein of early download? With Mark and I, it absolutely is always possible. We just have to get in the same area. And maybe after I become somewhat retired later this year, I guess I might say, that I'll have some time to do collaborations with my friends.
Let's do that. I'm always available.
Exit. Hi, Mark. In 1995, you and the guys from Evil Mother stopped by my band house looking for an opener. Are you still hanging out with Curse?
Yeah, I am. I absolutely adore Curse. I love him.
Yeah.
And his lovely partner, Ona, they're absolutely gorgeous people. I saw Curse in Austin last November.
We label certain people the king of that town. So Curse is the king of Austin. Of course, he's earned that. He's earned that well. He could be called the King of San Antonio too, though.
That's right. St. Antonio. St. Antonio.
Yeah. So either or. Thanks for the question. Noah, what are your chances of a collaboration with Robin from Rappoon?
Well, that's a strange question, Noah. I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually in a project with Robin called Reform Faction, and we've released something like, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 albums.
Only 8 or 9 albums, and something that's been going on for a very long time. Big up Robin, man. See, Robin and you are to me, Robin is also from the original Soviet France, and you've got Mark from the original Soviet France. You get these guys together, you just have to sit back and watch.
He's fantastic, Robin. Absolutely fantastic. I'm hoping that Robin doesn't know this, but I'm hoping that Robin's going to help Dadu play live, actually, because we need some help.
Come on, Robin.
Yeah.
Is there ever any chance that Ben and you and Robin will ever?
I think that's not a possibility. We won't bore you with the details, but I don't think Ben would want that.
Yeah.
So, which is very sad, but
yeah, we don't want to go into details that are like that. I mean, we like to. Mark and I stroll down the road of what you call positive vibration.
Positivity, positive thinking.
Positive vibration, man. We got to go and eat some vegetable donburi.
That's right. Positive vibration to the nation.
Do you have any other plans to come over and do some other dates in North America?
Yeah, yes. Yes. I mean, I think it's really difficult, isn't it? Because I mean, I would love to do a full band thing and bring over Martin and Steve, and then also play with Daniel and Nathan and maybe some other folks too. But if I came over, I mean, it's so lovely playing with Daniel and Nathan. It was Randall as well. I mean, I also love playing with.
Randall Fraser's a great engineer.
It's every time I've played live with Randall, it's just been lovely. But I had such a good time with Nathan and Daniel, and they were such sort of intuitive and really into what we were doing. That I'd love to do that, but that if anybody ever wants to ask me to come over, then you just have to ask.
Yeah, just tell your local promoter you'd like to see Dead Voices on Air, or Dadu, is it?
Yeah.
Dadu,
well, I mean,
or the Drude with Mark.
Yeah. I know Martin and Steve would, bite my hand off to go and play shows, but it's, you're talking about bringing a band over, then aren't you? 3 people, and it ain't cheap to come over. It ain't cheap to do anything nowadays. Yeah.
I have to say, big up to the Denver community for supporting music the way that you support it, and Austin community as well. You usually are the ones responsible for flying Mark specifically over there to do specific events. And, this is going to probably happen, Mark. We should plan in 2024 to do an event together in Denver or something like that.
Yeah.
Get Edward involved and all the regular crew.
Yeah.
But, are we missing anything, Mark? Are we missing any info about upcoming things other than albums?
Well, yeah. I was talking to Edward the other day, and I've been sending him some of the new music I'm doing, and he said, "Oh, it's great! Oh, it's great!" And he also wrote a foreword for my book as well, which was lovely.
Oh,
absolutely
awesome!
Lovely. Yeah. So yeah. Dadu are also talking to Niels about Niels playing some sax with us.
Oh, perfect.
And so Niels wants us to go over and record there. So I'm just trying to work out a way of doing that, because he's got a fantastic studio, but I think his computer's a little bit archaic. So I'm going to have to ship over something to record onto. But I just
get an M1 laptop.
Yeah, I would love to have some of some of the. I actually found a tape recently of me and Niels playing live together, and I was playing trumpet and he was playing the sax, and it was wild, absolutely wild. Niels can go into some really, extreme places with his sax. He's very melodic, but he's also incredibly dissonant as well, which I love.
Absolutely. I miss seeing his presence as well. So I applaud any effort to get Nils active again, Mark, and if you go over there, take some shots or some video,
Oh yeah, yeah.
share it with us so that we can,
Well,
or we'll do a chat if you go over there or something like that again.
yeah, he's been. We've been talking to each other on the phone quite a lot recently, so I'm definitely going to do it.
Okay.
Because, like I say, I'm just so into the idea of him playing with us because I think live sax adds so much to it, doesn't it? And he's so good at it. When he does that three saxophone thing and like
He
Roland Kirk.
just brings a lot to everything. I mean, one time I went to Mexico City with the legendary Pink Dots, and we ended up doing an improvisation with Tuxedo Moon. So it was Tuxedo Moon, legendary Pink Dots in one band, and we improvised the whole set. No one even knew what we were going to do.
Yeah.
So as you say about Nils going into uncharted territory, well, as you know, Stephen Brown from Tuxedo Moon is also a great musician when it comes to that type of instrument. But like he was looking at Nils like he was just looking at him like he was confused. So it was like Nils was going into full-on Sun Ra territory.
Yeah.
But hey, if you want to check out like more with Mark and Nils and I, there's a chat that you go back and check it out here. Nils Van Horn, Mark Spybey, and Kevin. And like, there's nothing more than I'd like to see is I would like to be in a band with you guys, with maybe Edward and you guys, and like this whole mega project we make. Maybe that's what we should talk about.
Yeah, well, we should all go over to Nils's.
Yeah, we should all go to Nils and record whatever it might be.
Yeah, the Scotland Orchestra.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today on
My pleasure.
Chat. Bring her over. We got to have a live cat. Where's Gloria?
Well, I'm in the studio, so Gloria's in the house. That's Tiger Lily. Hey,
Hi from Tiger Lily.
Hey, Tiger.
Hi to everybody on Patreon from Tiger Lily. To Mark out there. Yeah, we love our cats. Thank you, baby. Mark, thank you so much for joining us here today on the Sunday. It's been a pleasure.
You're most welcome.
Chatting with you, my friend. And thank you, everybody, for your support. Cora, Esoteric, Russell, Exit 99, Greg Nelson, Eric Peterson. Eric Peterson, I know who you are. JC Snow.
I know who you are.
Yeah. JC Snow, and so on, all you guys out there. Thanks for all tuning in here on the side. And Mark, we got to stay and keep people informed about all the things that are happening. Because we'll never know what will happen between us.
I know.
Just do it.
We will.
Okay.
As always, love you. Take care of yourself.
Love you, my friend. Have a good evening.
Okay.